So we're delighted to have with us today George Moulos, and a 25-year-old Greek-Australian selected for the Forbes 30 under in 2020. And he started online businesses from the age of 13. Yes, you heard right. Age of 13 in Sydney, Australia. He has traveled the world for 7 years now. He has been traveling the world, so he's on the move. He moved, and he is a very nice person too, because he chose to promote entrepreneurship and innovation to young people around the world. And And he reached out and contacted Nikos Skalakis and said, I want to come to Pantheon and give a talk to your students. So we're very happy that he did that for us. So the title of the talk is really nice too. It's 21st Century Hustle. So without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to George Moulos to present, to tell us his story. George, cool. To you.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to go through, so this talk I've been doing for like 2 years now, and my idea was to do it in Greece and Cyprus to promote entrepreneurship in our country, in Greece and Cyprus, because it's not as vibrant a culture or as popular a career choice as it is in America or Australia, where I was born and I grew up. Since then it's actually gone pretty well, I like to think. I've done a bunch of countries in Eastern Europe, Western Europe, the Middle East now. So it's gone pretty well. But for me, Greece and Cyprus, of course, is home, and where I'm passionate to promote it more than anywhere else. So this talk, it's usually two halves. One is me storytelling about my story as an entrepreneur. And then the other half is theory. We're not doing theory today. We're just talking through exactly what I've done. I'm probably going to go slower through my story than usual. But at any point, if anyone ever has any questions about anything, right? And I know I've done enough talks in Greece and Cyprus now to know we're skeptical people. If you think something sounds a bit crazy or weird, put it in the chat, raise your hand, or however you want to do it. And I'll answer your question. I'll clear things up. The story is relatively crazy. So I'm sure there will be some questions. If you want to leave them at the end, you feel more comfortable then, whatever. If you want to ask me questions about my story, about something you want to do, about entrepreneurship in general, feel free to message me on Instagram, George Moulos Official. It'll be somewhere here in the slides. Feel free to reach out at any point, ask questions, and so on. But let's go from the top. Who the hell am I? So step one, to give you some context, in 2021, I finished my experiment that took 5 years. The experiment was to see if I could learn to become a better entrepreneur on my own rather than going to university. Now, my conclusion after 5 years now is that university is the best place to become an entrepreneur, but it's not enough anymore, right? Going to entrepreneurship is great. However, more is needed now. And I'm going to go through how I created a hybrid education for myself. I think that's something that all students should do. Great to learn entrepreneurship and business in university, but you also should do something on the side of your own during university or during having a job. And to define entrepreneurship from the start, entrepreneurship is 3 types of entrepreneurship. Full-time entrepreneur like me, where you start businesses back to back. Micro entrepreneurship, you might have a job, or you go to university, you have a side business, or you're an entrepreneur, right? So an entrepreneur is someone who might work at Netflix and they create new projects within the business, and they innovate within the company. So when I talk about entrepreneurship, I don't just mean Elon Musk. I mean anyone who has a side project or is creating new products and innovating within a company. That's what I mean by entrepreneurship. So let's go back in time. This is my papu and my pro-papu, my great-grandfather from Kythera. On the left is my papu, George, who left Kythera. Everyone knows where Kythera is. In 1939, before the war. And he came to Australia, Sydney, Australia, and he started small businesses. as all the Greeks did. They started milk bars and fish shops, and my papu George did the same. And that's where I never met my papu, but that's where I got my, always I had the inspiration to do something of my own very young. Now, I grew up in Australia. I worked at 13 years old in 9 months. We can start working in Australia. It's not the same in Greece, I know. But I started working at McDonald's. That's me when I didn't have a beard. On my first day at McDonald's. And I worked there for 3 years. I was working in the back, making burgers and stuff, cleaning. And nothing in me whatsoever thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. No one told me I could be an entrepreneur. No one said that was even an option. Nothing. Like, my parents weren't entrepreneurs. My dad was a forklift driver for 25 years at a factory. And my mom was an assistant to an accountant, and she worked at the airport. And they mowed lawns and gardening, like, not entrepreneurial things. Now, around this same age, when I started working at McDonald's, now years before even working at McDonald's, I would help my parents out when they would do gardening for other people, mowing lawns. I would do labor work at where my dad worked, at a company called Fruitex, owned by a Catherian guy, actually. And this was like between the years of being 13 years old and like 16 years old. McDonald's and unloading shipping containers, labor work was what I did after school, free, any holidays I got, weekends. If I had spare time, I was working. And that's the mentality I always had. Work ethic, my work ethic has always been insane. And that was just the basis of everything. It's not even something I ever questioned. Now, my dad, my mom, all my grandparents, all my great-grandparents, and I've done my family tree here. There's like 500 pages worth of like family trees. I know exactly that all of my ancestors always worked with their hands. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to work that insanely hard with like my own two hands to make terrible money. When I worked at McDonald's, I got like $8 Australian dollars, so like €4 or €5 an hour. And I did not enjoy it. Surprise, surprise. And so this was the mentality I was in. I was working every day at McDonald's or at Fruitex, this company where I was unloading shipping containers, working crazy hours. And I knew that I wanted to change, like, more than anything. I wanted to work less. I didn't want to work for the rest of my life with my hands. I wanted to change the path, to be honest, of like my family tree. I didn't want to work with my hands forever. So that's when I started reading some books. So the first book I read was a book by a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, and it was called Crush It. And it was just about building communities online around whatever it might be, and then monetizing later, right? Now, I also read a bunch of other entrepreneurship books. I'm happy to send them to anyone who wants to, start reading. But I went straight to work. So what I did was, when I was 13 years old, I started some Facebook groups. Now, Facebook groups back then, they weren't big and they wasn't full of spam and stupid things. It was pretty new. So what I did was I started building Facebook groups for students and just adding stupid memes. Like, I was looking at stupid memes every day. So I thought, why not just put them in a group and we'll see how it goes. So I added my friends, their friends added their friends from my school. Then everyone added everyone else from other schools. And these Facebook groups grew into the tens of thousands of people. So every day at school, during lunchtime, during recess, after school, I'd be posting memes. And then I started posting like academic stuff, like videos, how to study this, how to study that. I'd post free notes, whatever it might be. But these groups were slowly building into communities, and I was adding value for free. And then I thought, okay, slowly, let me build this into something real, a real community. So I had the Facebook groups, let's say it was 30,000. I said, hey, if you like the Facebook group, like the Facebook page. If you like the Facebook page, give me your email. I'll put it on a weekly email. And if you miss some notes or some memes, I'll send it to you once a week on an email. Then I created a website. The website was terrible, but I created a website, and you could visit the website too, to get the notes. So I was building all this stuff when I was 13, 14, 15. Now, during these years, at some point after 3-4 months, I realized I'm paying like €20 a month for $20 a month Australian for my website to run, my email to run. And most of the people in these groups are private school kids who have a lot more money than my family. And I realized I'm spending my McDonald's money that I'm dying for, burning my hands for, and breaking my back at Fruitex for, to pay for these kids' memes. I go, okay, now it's time to monetize. So I called up, there I was, like 13 years old, I called up companies that did holidays, like like spring break. And then I started calling car companies, Toyota dealerships. I started calling tutoring companies. I started calling anybody who ever sold anything to students. I started to call them. I said, hey, can I sell your products and you give me 5%? And they're like, how old are you? They could tell from my voice I was a child. They're like, whatever, try, good luck, whatever. So the holiday company was called schoolies.com. They said, sell as many holidays as you can. And I sold $130,000 worth of holidays within 3 months. And I think I made like 3-4% on that. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do something here. And then I got a tutoring company to sell their stuff, and it built into a real business. Every month, it'd be a couple $100 from schoolies, a couple $100 from a tutoring company, a couple $100 from cars, like a Toyota dealership, secondhand cars. And then I was like, you know what? Why don't I do this for every single school year? So I had a class of 2016 was my year, class of 2015, class of 2014, class of 2017. I created multiple years, all with their own group, all with their own website, so that I'm monetizing on every single student year in New South Wales, which is the biggest state in Australia. So things were going really well. I'm bringing money in. I think I'm a billionaire because I'm 13. I'm making money. And then this is over. And then I started to sell the businesses, the Facebook group with the email list, with the Facebook page, with the website, when the students would graduate. So there where I was in, when I was 13, I sold the oldest group for 5,000 Australian dollars, right? And that was my first business sale. I sold my own business. I found a buyer and then I sold it to them, right? Now, after a couple of months, companies like Schoolies, this one here, said, look, if you can make us money directly, if you can make us money as an affiliate through, and you make commission, why not just do some of our marketing? So I said, of course, why not? So then I started my second official business, which was Moulos Media. Like every Greek entrepreneur, I put my own name in the business name, and I started off the marketing agency. Now I started doing Facebook ads, Google ads. I started building Facebook groups for them. I started making content for them, and I slowly hired people, freelancers, to do some of the work that I didn't need to do. So at this point, I'm 14 years old. I'm selling some Facebook groups every other month. I'm buying and selling even Instagram pages, Facebook pages, YouTube accounts, all small things, $500 here, $500 there, all small stuff. But I got very good at buying and selling businesses, small little businesses. And then so really it was just the Facebook group stuff and my marketing agency. Now, meanwhile, I'm still at school, right? I'm still at school. I went to a good school that my parents worked there. They were asked off to send me to. And of all the students who went to my school, I was the only one who had urgency. I don't know what that translates into Greek, what urgency means, but that's probably the most important thing I'll say today, right? And probably if there's anything to take from my story, it's urgency. You got to do something immediately, right? So when I was at school, I got straight into building out a community and my own network, right? So for example, when I was at school, I went to a good school and I was thinking, how can I make the most of this expensive school that my parents are sending me to, right? I said, why don't I go and talk to the alumni, people who've gone to this high school that have left and become successful entrepreneurs. So I went to the guy who was in charge of the alumni. I said, who went to this school and was a successful entrepreneur? And he said, this person, this person, this person. I'm like, give me their phone number and their email. And then I would call them. I go, 15, 16 years old. I go, can we get a coffee? I want to hear your story. Some would say, no, who are you? Some would say, yes. And I'd go and have a cafe with them. And I'd say, tell me your story. I want to hear it. And I'd ask them for some advice. And then I would say to them, who do you know that I should talk to? And then I would go and talk to them. And then I created a network effect where I was talking and meeting the richest people in Australia, not kind of the richest people in Australia, the actual richest person in Australia I get to meet just from asking who should I talk to people. Like, it was incredible. And then on top of that, I also had successful entrepreneurs, self-made entrepreneurs in my family, from Kithara. I had 2 uncles who were billionaires, and they didn't want to help at all. I would call them, they're like, nah, we're good. And like, to be honest, they had like epicurity to my own papu. And they were hostile, let's say, right? So in all this, I felt like I was building momentum to become an entrepreneur. But also I had so many people in my personal life environment that did not want to see me succeed or didn't see anything in me at all, right? So like, it was actually super tough, and I had no self-confidence, a lot of anxiety to do any of this stuff on my own, right? And on top of that, to be honest, my own family, my immediate family, did not have any faith in my ability to be an entrepreneur. My mom, I remember telling my mom, hey, I'm going to start a marketing agency, the Moulos media one. And she was like, I know exactly what she said because I wrote it down. She said, why would anyone pay you? You don't know anything. And again, a hostile environment, but also that's a Greek mother. She's scared for me, right? And look, in those times that you got to say, fair, why don't I just prove it? And that's exactly what I did, right? And slowly, as all this, whether it was hostile environment, whether it was people who were helping me through my networking, I just kept going. To be honest, I look back now, I don't understand why. Actually, I do, but I just didn't listen to people. I listened to people who knew exactly what I wanted to do. If it was an entrepreneur in e-commerce, I'm listening. If it's an accountant in real estate, that's great, but that's not really relevant to what I'm trying to do, right? If I had $2 million to spend in real estate, fantastic, that's perfect advice. But I was trying to be an entrepreneur in e-commerce. So I'm talking to people who are entrepreneurs in e-commerce. For example, like this guy here, this guy, Jack DeLossa, he's a great business. He's relatively famous in Australia. He knows e-commerce, he knows small businesses. So his advice was superb. And this is a relatively famous guy in Australia. I just reached out to him. I go, hey, I'm 15 years old. I want to, meet, get a coffee, whatever. And I sat there with him, and that's what that video is. And he said, great, we had a great 10-minute meeting. Why don't you hop on a podcast I'm doing and let's talk? And I remember this video here, I don't know if it's on YouTube or whatever, but I touch my chin like this, like every 5 seconds. Yeah, there it is. And we, years later, my friends and I had a drinking game that every time I touched my chin, we'd have a drink. But I was very nervous, to say the least. That being said, at school, of course, I was studying as a student at high school, and I wanted to do well. And you could do many different things at this school, right? There was chess club, sports, blah, blah, blah. Me being a nerd, I said, I don't want to do that. I want to create my own group where it's business. I wanted like an entrepreneurship group. And it was called the Business and Economics Forum. It had a bad name, I'll admit. But basically, I would ask like local politicians and entrepreneurs to come in and talk. And Varoufakis, that picture over here, he came to a local university. I took me and all the Greek boys, who were the only people in the group, to come, and we listened to him speak. So any economist who came, we wanted to learn, and we were urgent to learn, really. And this guy down here, he was the local politician for my school. And I said, hey, do you want to come and do a talk? And he said, yes. So I was there for an hour asking questions. He's actually the Prime Minister of Australia now, which is kind of crazy. This is like my Forrest Gump slide where I just meet famous people. But yeah, at school, at home, on my own time, I was always pushing what I wanted to do. And I wasn't waiting for anyone to tell me, hey, do you want to do this? I just went and did it, right? That's being proactive and taking initiative, but also having that urgency. So things are going well, and I buy my car. This is my Mazda 2. Things were going very well. And then comes my final year. Just before my final year of high school, I quit McDonald's. I quit labor work. For me, in my head, I'm an entrepreneur. I make money. I'm doing well. And then it was my last year of high school. Now, people have told me when I've mentioned what I'm about to say at the end of talks, they tell me you should say it earlier in talks. I've always had a lot of anxiety like a lot of social anxiety, a lot of anxiety about everything, to be honest, especially in business too. And that really started around this year in 2016. Now, it all started when things were going well, and then things started going very badly, very fast. On the 4th of August, 2016, I left home. I had a lot of family problems and blah, blah, blah. And I had to leave home. I didn't have a choice. And I said, don't worry, I'm an entrepreneur. I have money. I'll be okay. That didn't work out. I ran out of money very fast because I had to pay business expenses, blah, blah, blah. So I was broke at 17. And then I had to live in my car. I had to live in my Mazda 2. I would recline the driver's seat and sleep there behind the school. And I would have like a sun guard thing. No one would know. And then I was living in my car. Then I crashed my car in the back of this Honda Jazz. And then I lost my license too. And then it just started raining at the same time. Everything went wrong immediately. And then I had to take my car, which I was in for 3 weeks and smelled disgusting. I had to take my car, which was my home and my office. I had all my stuff, all my clothes. I had to take it to get fixed because, and this is the beauty and irony of my entrepreneurial career and so on, that my car, I crashed it in such a beautiful way that I could still drive it. However, my driver's door wouldn't open, so I have to get out through the window. At petrol stations, anywhere I was, I'd have to get out through the window, basically. So things weren't good. And then I had to go back to working all the jobs I didn't want. I slept like 1 hour a day on a park bench, on the beach, on the train. For 3 days, I was full homeless in Sydney. I had to go back to Fruitex. I was half asleep on buses. Things were very bad, to say the least, right? Now, this is during August, and I had a very enjoyable birthday, my 18th birthday on a park bench. It was really fun. But slowly, I fixed my car. I sold my car. I made some money there. I sold like all of my Facebook groups just to get as much cash as I could. I finished high school, and it was the end of 2016. I had to ask myself, did I want to go to university, or do I want to be an entrepreneur on my own? Like, I honestly didn't know. Nothing in me said I could be an entrepreneur full-time and do it full-time. I really honestly didn't know. I went to the first day of university, and I was in this big theater at the University of Technology, Sydney. And I was there for 5 minutes. And then I had a call from a client from my Moulos media business. And I did it, and I sold him on a marketing package for 6 months. And then I'm about to open the door again for the university to go back into the theater. I was like, Astor, like, let me just go. And then he just went. It just kept going. I moved into this apartment here, which had cockroaches, rats. It was disgusting. Basically, whatever apartment you think anybody would rent to an 18-year-old child with no job who thinks he's an entrepreneur, that's what they gave me, right? So it was a disgusting place, but I got comfortable, and I love that place. I have very fond memories. I moved in with a bunch of other entrepreneur friends, and then like I mentioned, I sold a bunch of my businesses, right? All my Facebook groups. Now, at the same time, in 2016, a lot of my friends still would come to me to sell a domain name, an Instagram page, a Facebook group, a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, whatever it might be. And slowly, some of my clients from Moulos Media would say to me, hey, can you sell my website, my whole website? That it's making money. Some of them made like a couple $100. Some of them made like a couple $1,000 a month. They said, can you sell it? And I said, of course, I know a few people who want to buy it. And then Moulos Media started making more money from selling businesses and taking 20% commission, 15% commission than it did from marketing. So slowly, e-commerce brokers started to form from my marketing agency. Now, at the same time, money was still tight. I was living in the middle of Sydney, which is like the most expensive city in the world. And I'm 18 and I have no job. So paying rent was very hard. Now, I had about 7 people in a 2-bedroom building. So I tried to make it as easy as possible, but still, inevitably, I went broke for the second time on a Thursday. And I knew that I had to pay $2,000 worth of rent on Monday. So I said, okay, I remember I was watching a movie. I saw my bank account was negative $200, not on a credit card, on a debit card. I had negative $200. So I said, okay, I have to do something. I woke up, I went downstairs, I wrote on my whiteboard a plan, an idea for a business actually that I had for years. And the idea was, I have 1 or 2 Facebook groups left that are still doing well, but not making much money. What if I start a business that allows students to study how I study, right? Now in Australia, and I assume Greece is relatively the same, if you're going to high school and you have 5 subjects, physics, maths, history, blah, 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 you need to buy 2 textbooks maybe for every subject. That could cost, in Australia, it could cost €500 to just get the textbooks, right? Now, the way I studied, I would write the text, I could use the textbook to write notes by hand and then type it up. And then I have my notes, then I need to make them less and more condensed and succinct. And then I have a PDF online that's 20 pages with perfect notes. But even then, they're my notes. And what the hell do I know, right? So I said, why don't I just get the students who left school and graduated with the best results, perfect results, to give me their notes, and then I sell it. And that's exactly what I did. That was HSC notes, right? So what I did was, that Thursday, I went to my Facebook groups and I made a poll. I don't think it's here. No, it's not. I have a poll. I made a poll. I said, do you want to buy, would you buy $10, €5 HSC, which is the curriculum of Australia, notes for $10 by the best achievers, the highest ranking students, with perfect notes, and it's a PDF. And 500 kids said yes. That, very simple, but that is product validation. The main reason businesses fail is because they think they have a product market fit and they don't. That's why for me, the first thing I try and do is monetize as soon as possible, because then I know, yes, people actually want this product, right? So then that Thursday, 500 people said yes. I told my friend who was sitting on the other side of this table here, Adam Miller, good kid. I said, can you collect all the notes, type them up, put a logo on it, and let's go. I made this terrible logo, really, the colors are disgusting, but I made the logo on Canva in 2 minutes. We put it on the notes. We got the permission from the students who made them, and I started messaging everyone on Facebook. We didn't even have a website. Which notes do you want? I want physics, maths, history. Okay, send me $30. Like, fantastic, here's $30. Then we sent them the notes. I said, what do you think? Do you like the notes? And they said to me, these are perfect. These are really good notes. Like, this has saved me 6 months. I don't need to write it from the textbook. I don't need to write them down. I don't need to catch up. I don't need to type them up. I don't need to make them more succinct. And I know they're the best. I go, good. And then I got 20 more testimonials like that. And everyone liked it. And then some people said, oh, it'd be nice if there was some pictures. It'd be nice if there was some this, diagrams, blah, blah, blah. So then we added it. So we innovated within 24 hours. Now it's Friday. I've slept not at all. You can see my maquiador. I have not slept for like 3 days here. And I have 5,000 Red Bull cans. And I was just boom, boom, $10, $10, $10, $10. And it was like PayPal, bank account, however they wanted to pay. And then by Monday, we made $2,000, something like that, right? And we paid rent. And then, so the story, to finish the story in HSC Notes, before I go to e-commerce brokers, HSC Notes made like 70,000 Australian in 2017, the year after. I got some investment from my mentor, Rowan Coons, who's been like a father to me. He's a saint. And he owns one of the biggest one-on-one tutoring company in New South Wales. And then eventually we sold it off. We sold it in parts. But the business, that was my first online business. That was a digital product, right? So great little business. To be honest, everyone in that industry, my competitors, textbook companies, right? Like, talk about old industries, textbook companies said they were going to sue me. They said, you know, you did this, you did that. We're going to buy you out. We're going to do this. We're going to stop you. And I brought my lawyer in. I know this is a big concern for Greeks. Everyone in Greece thinks they're going to get sued for everything. It's not true. Like, the textbook companies came in and tried to sue me, cease and desist this, but they had no right. They have no, my product was better, up to date, and the students liked it better, and my marketing was better. So that's why we dominated over a year and a half. But I had a lot of anxiety for sure. I mean, with all that Red Bull, you get a bit of cortisol in your system, you get some anxiety, right? And every week I didn't know if I was going to make rent. Like it was, and I'm paying my own bills and everything. There's no, let me make it clear. I had no support from any family at all. The only support I got was the opposite of support. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? You think you're so cool. I say mangas. Oh my God, big entrepreneur. I didn't say anything. I didn't get mad to them. I got mad in my own head and I just worked. I had bigger fish to fry, as we say. So then I just kept working. And slowly, I sold HSC notes and I started selling a lot more businesses than I was doing marketing work on with Moulos Media. So then I said to myself, why don't I just do e-commerce broker? Why don't I create a brokerage full-time? Now, the big question here is, what the hell is that? Like e-commerce brokers, what is that, right? Now, in Greece, online businesses aren't as popular as in America and Australia. But in America and Australia, there are hundreds of thousands of online businesses, whether it's Shopify, whether it's Amazon, whether it's a blog, whether it's a YouTube channel that makes money, whether it's an Instagram account, whatever it is. If it's an online business and it makes money, it can be sold like a restaurant, like your local taverna. Eventually, they want to sell it if it does well, right? They want to sell it to someone else. When they want to sell the taverna to someone, they're going to go to a real estate agent or a broker. The broker will find a buyer, will close the transaction, and they're going to take 10%. That's what I do, but for online businesses. And now slowly with brick and mortar, normal businesses too. But the beauty of what I do really is in online businesses. So I officially started brokering full-time in 2016, 17, but I'd been doing it since I saw my silly little Facebook meme group when I was 13, right? So I'd been doing deals like this for ages. And now for, how old am I? For 12 years, right? And then I went full-time. I sold everything else I owned. I went full-time with e-commerce brokers. And within 3 months, I was broke again, which was a lot of fun, but it was needed, right? Now, between 2017 and now, I made a decision in 2018, at the start of 2018. I realized I was making pretty good money for Australia, but after rent and all the expenses of living in the most expensive bloody city in the world, I was broke again. And I read another book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And he basically said, if you can make your money geography independent, you can maximize the value of your money. Instead of me making Australian money and American money and staying in Australia and being broke, I can go live in Bali for 7 months and be rich relatively, right? And I had a lot of, like I said, family problems and anxiety and issues like that when I lived in Australia. So for me, the perfect thing to do was to get out of Dodge, like just to get out of there and just travel. It was perfect for me. And then since then, I've done like 50 countries. I lived in Bali for 7 months, Singapore, Japan, every country in Europe I visited. I lived in most countries in Europe for 3 months each. Mexico, America. I've been everywhere. And during 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, I basically traveled nonstop, 3 months at a time in a new city. It's a bit of a problem, actually. I can't sit down and just work, right? But every year, I would come to Greece for at least 3 months, and I would stay in Athens. And in 2018, when I moved to Greece, and my business, I went full-time with my business e-commerce brokers, I had no money. My business was an idea, really. They say I had a lot of experience, but it was just an idea. It was a hunch. And the industry of online business brokering barely existed. There was like 3 other companies that did it in America, done by old men who have 30 years experience on Wall Street banking. And I'm an idiot with no degree who's a child, and I didn't even have a beard at the time. I didn't even look old. Now I look old, but I didn't even look old. I had no experience. I was a child, but I still said, I think I can do something here. And slowly, I started to build up my ability to, to basically sell businesses, right? I'm just going to put videos in the background so there's some visual aids because I don't have any more slides here. But over these years, I also vlogged everything, right? I wanted to document everything. One of the guys I've always looked up to is a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know how famous he is in Greece, but yeah. And he said, document everything. And that's exactly what I did. No one watches my videos, to be honest, except for me and my friends. But I traveled the world. I kept doing all this stuff. And I just kept working and traveling. And in that way, I had a wealth of experience, to be honest. Now, like I said, I was in Greece in 2018, and I lived with my cousin who lived in a little suburb you guys might know called Victoria, on a little square called Pantolimos, which does not have a good reputation, and that's for good reason. And in 2018, which is like the peak, well, not the peak, the bottom of the crisis, and also there was a migrant crisis, and there was like 5,000 refugees in Platia Victorias. Like, it was insane. It was and that was the environment in which I started my I restarted my entrepreneurial journey. Welcome. So like all these people say, one thing that a lot of students and people will say when they see me in the news or something, his parents are rich. And for me, it's like, you're joking, right? One, my parents are not rich. Any one parents is probably richer than mine. And number two, I started from scratch so many times, especially when I lived in Victoria with my cousin, Thanasi, who's an amazing person, in the peak of the crisis, right? So then I restarted there. So from 2018 in Victoria, I restarted my e-commerce brokers. And step by step, day by day, very like I said, not to forget, I had a lot of anxiety during this whole process. I built up e-commerce brokers from selling $5,000 businesses to 10,000 to 50,000 to 100,000. And then 2019 came around, right? Now I'll skip my end of year videos to 2019 here. 2019 was not a good year for me. Like, I had a lot of anxiety. I lived in Bali and it was fun, but I lived on very little money. No time, no money to waste, basically. And again, most of my time I actually spent that in Agios Pantelimonas. Now in 2020 is when things started to work. I really validated my e-commerce brokers business. And I was quite determined. I remember making this video when I was in Victoria. And I sold a lot of businesses. I worked like 16, 18 hours a day. And this was the year I felt like I made it. And that's the year I got the Forbes 30 under 30 for Greece. And it felt pretty good, right? I know I haven't asked if anyone wants to ask any questions yet. So before I go forward, does anyone have any questions?
I'm not sure.
You can go on and then, okay, sorry, Katerina.
No, please go ahead.
We'll have all questions for when you end your presentation, George.
Cool, perfect.
Yes.
So in 2020,
I think that's
yeah, perfect. I can wait to the end. So 2020 felt great. I made the Forbes list. I'm traveling a bit. There was this global pandemic thing that happened, you may have heard of, and everyone wanted to buy things online, which meant that a lot more money was online, and people wanted to sell the businesses, people wanted to buy businesses. To be honest, COVID was amazing for my business, right? And then 2021 came around. And it was very bad to me. I got robbed like 3 times and I was back to being broke. I had so much business expenses. I was selling a lot of businesses, but a lot of them were like $50,000 to $100,000. So I was working super hard with many clients, and I didn't actually end up making a lot of money, which was odd because I had employee costs, wages, blah, blah, blah. And then I remember I got robbed in Mexico. That really sucked. And then I moved my company officially to Cyprus, to Larnaca. And I started from scratch again. I ran a marathon, but I was like pretty depressed this year because a lot of the things I tried to do did not happen. I said to myself, I made a decision to actually slow down, stop trying to have as many employees as possible. I said, you know what? I would rather sell 30 businesses a year and each of them be worth $1 million than sell 300 businesses a year and they're all worth $100,000. Because selling a $100,000 business is the same effort as selling a $1 million business or a $50 million business like we're selling now. So in 2022, I came to Cyprus, I sat down, I was much more focused, and I changed the business model of my business. Now, I really focused on selling bigger businesses so that I put the same effort, but make a lot more money. And I also said, if I'm going to, I had a buy-side service where people could buy businesses with me, and I would help them do it. But now I put a lot more focus into it. So I actually scaled back my business, made less money for a couple months, and then it went really well. So 2021 was a slow year. I didn't travel much. And then towards the end of the year, it went really well. We sold a lot more businesses. I started really doing the university talks, which I love because I think it's the best way for me to actually give back. Sharing a story of a young Greek person who didn't have connections or money, who did something, right? So that's why I do the talks. And then this year, it's been great. Like this year so far, things have gone even better, to be honest. The year hasn't finished yet, so there's no video for it. But yeah, that is pretty much my detailed story. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, George. That was amazing. That was really amazing. Thank you very much for sharing your story with us, which was very much a story, you know, a journey into adulthood in your case, as well as a story about a truly entrepreneurial spirit, as I can see it is your case. But it really resonates with our audience as well, which is an audience of young people. So I'm pretty sure that they very much liked your account of how it works. Okay, so we maybe I want to ask a question, but maybe other people want to go first, and then I ask my questions. So
sure. Anybody want to ask a question, they can go for it.
Yeah, just open your mic and ask a question.
Perfect.
Don't be shy.
So I would like to start a little bit, if I may.
Yes, Betty, you go first.
So I was really impressed and fascinated to listen to your story. I was immersed into that, and I felt as well that that this idea of emergency you have mentioned, that throughout your life you had this emergency and work ethic that pushed you from one entrepreneurial venture to the next. And I would like somehow, if you could like to share with us, who were the most critical people and networks that supported this journey as you were traveling from from one place to the next? Did you meet with other entrepreneurs? Did you meet with funders? Did you had support of other networks? And I would like one more thing to highlight that really impressed me, and it is really familiar. How the Greek families sometimes are really introducing constraints and try to curtail the ambitions of people to keep them more down than to open to open up to the world and to try to do their best. I think also in that way that you've mentioned, one of the issues we have as we try to introduce a new entrepreneurial ethos and mindset and culture, sometimes we think most about if we have access to funding. Sometimes we don't have access to a support group that, for Greek at least society, the first support group is the family. And sometimes this is where
Definitely.
we have major issues. So from one hand, the family, on the other hand, what are the critical people and networks that have supported you in what ways throughout the years? And congratulations,
absolutely.
really impressive and somehow, I would say, empowering not just the younger generations, even the young adults, but we are part of your journey, showing your journey right now. So the floor is yours.
Pleasure. Sure. So I'm going to answer the second question first, because I think the first question leads on from that. So I come from an island called Kithra, right? And Kithra used to be an island of 50,000 people, like 30,000 people, something crazy, in 1912. And now it's an island of 4,000 people. All the Kithirians basically went to Sydney, Australia, before World War II, and they became exquisite, amazing, self-made entrepreneurs. It actually doesn't make sense. There's like 4 billionaires just from Kithira in Sydney. It's insane, right? But the island is like that. It's an island that was, I know why too, because I'm a history nerd. It's an island that had a culture of some entrepreneurship. Kithira was never conquered by the Turks. It was conquered by Venice, and it was always a trading hub. There was something in Kithirians that made them like this. So when they had their full freedom in Greece and they went to Australia, they had a very capitalist culture. They started businesses, fishing shops, fish and chip shops, milk bars, liquor stores. You will struggle to walk a street in Sydney and not find a Kithirian liquor store that is either owned by a Kithirian or was sold from a Kithirian to a supermarket. Like it's absurd, actually. It's too much, actually. So it's definitely in my culture. And like I said, my papu had 7 brothers and sisters, and he came to Australia first, and he brought them all out to Australia, and they became successful, and their kids became successful. But I never met my papu. I never met any of my grandparents. They all died before I was born, and they died before my parents were even 10. So I grew up without an entrepreneurial community. I actually grew up, and me and my immediate family, far away from all of my family. So I didn't grow up with uncles who were billionaires, even though they kind of had this slight επιχειρήση to my papu. The people who were entrepreneurial didn't live near me. I saw them once a year for Easter, and that was it. So when I did ask them, hey, can we get a cafe and talk? They would say no. They would never show up. They said, why do you care? Like, who are you to be a business? Relax, go study, work 50 years, like, we'll see. And this is a very Greek thing, right? Now, my mom was born in Australia. She was from my papu George. And Greeks, the way we are, the Kithirians who lived in Australia looked down on the Kithirians who stayed in Greece, in Kithira. Now, and my dad was born in Kithira. If I thought my mum's side was poor in Kithira, my dad was the poorest of the poor in Kithira, and he was born in Kithira. So my mum's side looked down on my dad's side, and because I'm my dad's son, they looked down on me. So this family of amazing, amazing entrepreneurs actually were a massive deterrent for me, and they actually made me super upset and disappointed as a kid. And to add to that, my mom did her best, absolutely, but also she was scared for me. She didn't want me to do some internet business, like she had no idea what the hell I was talking about. She's like, just go to school, just study, just keep working at McDonald's, blah, blah, blah. Now, I didn't get angry at her because she wanted the best for me. A lot of people don't, but she did. And I think once we realize these people want the best for us, and it's also, they're in a new world, like our parents or whoever, we're in a new world and they don't quite understand it. And that's not something to get angry about. I've spent most of my life very angry because people didn't expect anything from me, or they were disrespectful because they didn't. That's a waste of time and a waste of effort, right? I think, especially in Greece, if those who matter, those who mind, those who care about what you're saying or what you're doing, and they're doing gossiping and gossobolio, they don't matter, right? The saying goes, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind, right? the people who are good to you, who are helpful, they want you to do this stuff. They're not worried about little silly things. And those who do care about every little thing and commenting and gossiping, who cares what they think? I never spent a second, and somehow as a kid, I didn't really spend a second to stop myself from doing what I wanted to do because of what other people thought. I don't even understand how I was so forthright with what I wanted to do. But it was absolutely the best thing I ever did. Like, sometimes you just got to put blinders on and just do what you got to do and work. Now, luckily, although my family was little to no help and a deterrent to my career, I went out there and I met people and I found people. And that is what I'm ridiculously good at. I am really good at going and finding the best people to be my mentors. So when I was 13, when I was calling companies to sell on my Facebook groups, whatever, holidays, tutoring, I called a tutoring company, and this guy called Rowan Coons answered. He owned the company. And he goes, that's a good idea. Let's sell the tutoring in your groups. Cool. And he said, why don't we meet for a cafe to talk business? I was like, yeah, perfect. So I ditched school on my 6th period. And I went in my little Newington, my high school outfit. And I went and met Rowan. And he sees me, he's like, you're a child. You're like 10 years old. And I go, yeah, come on, let's do this thing. And so he said, look, I said to him, look, of course I can do the affiliate sales. He became a client of mine through Moulos Media, my marketing agency. And I said to him, can I take 5 minutes of your time every month? He goes, of course. He's an angel, a saint to me. And every month to this day, that was when I was 13, this is 12 years later, to this day, he gives me like 2 hours to advise me, to guide me, sometimes in business, sometimes in life, and mentor me. He's been like a father to me since then. And he is such a, like, him and one other person, which I'll talk about now. This guy called Jared, I met him when I was 18 and I left high school. And we've done business together. Again, he saved me in the same way, Jared Codling. Now, these two guys, and my therapist said this, and I thought it was a good analogy. With all the people in my life, whether it be immediate family, extended family, people commenting on videos, people commenting on Instagram posts, people from my high school who bloody hated me for no reason, people who comment on my TV videos or whatever, newspapers, and they say, he thinks this, he thinks that, he thinks he's so cool, his parents are rich, blah, blah, blah. Everyone is saying all this bad stuff. The way I characterize it is, and my therapist characterized it, is like, imagine just a really gray, stormy sky, right? And then there's this one circle of light coming straight through the clouds. Those are the good people. And the reality is, the good people are so good, you don't even care about the bad people. I don't even think about the bad people, right? Now, to be honest, with good people, finding good people, it's probably the hardest thing in entrepreneurship, to find good people, to talk with them consistently. But it's the most important thing to do. Now, that doesn't mean cutting people off. That alpha male bullshit is bullshit. Like, chill out. Like, you don't have to go crazy. I think, especially take into consideration our culture, our elders are scared for us, and we should respect that. And we should ask them about things that they will give great advice on. How to be patient. I'm not patient. When I ask my theas who are like 90 about patience, that's when I'm listening. If I asked her about an entrepreneur, about an e-commerce business, yeah, she might sound a bit negative, but it's like the wrong question to ask. So I definitely think being patient, asking the right questions to the right mentors is key, and creating your environment is key. Now, if your environment is shit, like mine was, whether it was in a car, whether it was when I was sleeping on a park bench, or whether it's yes, bando limonas, you choose your environment and you choose how you think in that environment, right? So there's no excuse. Yeah.
Nikos wants to ask a question. Thank you very much for your
Thank you
answer.
for that.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I'm also conscious of time, because our time is running out. So,
Sure.
I've got a comment and a question. I think your story is impressive. And because it gives us something different from what we say to our students. It's these ups and downs that you described are very interesting to hear, and to get another picture of what the traditional story of being an entrepreneurship is in the framework and in the context of what we teach in the universities. So I think today's presentation is very important because it gives us another option of there are other ways to go where everybody would need to go, and to hear your story is something interesting. So thanks for sharing this journey of yours, and making it a bit personal as well, just to hear what you've been through and how you've managed to overcome all the difficulties that you faced in your life, and how you combined these personal difficulties in your entrepreneurial journey. This is an important lesson, I think, to all of us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Now, going back, so your story is impressive and important and interesting, and it might be a bit controversial, but still, it's very good to hear. Okay. Now, back to my question. You've focused your journey to the concept of urgency, and it was there was clear evidence in your story why you think that urgency is important, and you also mentioned that you have a difficulty with patience, which is what we tell to our students. You have to be patient in order to succeed. Okay, so my question to you would be, in your context of thinking, have you thought, do you have any long-term plans of where you want to go, or is your approach I just go with the flow, and when something bad happens, when I just try to get it through and go on? Do you have any long-term plans, or do you go with the flow?
That's a really good question. I do not go with the flow. I am not someone who goes with flows. I think it's not to say that I'm not someone who enjoys the present moment. I for sure am like that. But I have friends who always land on their feet. They're always okay. That's never been me. If I pause for a second, I feel like every time I've had tried to stop, the world has caught up to me and I've always gone under, or I did. For me, and this is part of my anxiety too, but there's no time to waste. There's if you're actually quite honest with yourself about any situation you might be in, we don't have any time to waste. For me, it's like, even now where I'm doing relatively well, whatever that means, at least for me, I still wake up at the same time every day. I still have the same daily routine. To be honest, my friends have said this, nothing's changed in my life at all. I'm still doing the same work. I'm still working out the same. I'm still running around universities to do talks. My urgency is still there. I still have the killer instinct. To answer your question succinctly, I do not go with the flow. I have to create the flow. Like, I am the flow. I didn't go to university where there's a lot of structure there. They tell you, this is due by this day, this is due by that day. I didn't have a job to say, this is due, you have to do this then. I had to create that. So for me, I am a history nerd, like I've said many times. I like to see it as a campaign season, like in ancient Rome. In the Eastern Roman Empire, every year we had a campaign season. During summer, we would campaign. For me, every year, I need to do better than last year. I don't compare myself to anyone else because there's no one like me who has gone through with the stuff I've gone through. Not to say I'm better or whatever, just I've gone through something completely different. I don't know any other 25-year-olds who've left their continent and where they grew up and did their own thing on their internet with zero help. So how can I compare myself to anyone else? How can I set my pace to anyone else, right? So what I do is be better than last week and try and be better than last year. So last year for me was, pretty good. This year so far has been ridiculously good. And I want to beat that. I want to do in business. Of course, I want to sell more businesses. I want to help people buy more businesses. With universities, I want to help do more universities this year than last year. I want to do more ocean swims. I want to do more runs. I want to do more spider races. I want to see more ancient sites. For me, every year needs to be better than the last. And that's a bit psychotic in some ways too. Maybe you want to relax, sure. But I take my time to relax on a weekly basis. I don't go, further than I need to go. So I pace myself, right? Now, by the time I'm 30, I have very distinct and clear goals. By the time I'm 40, I have very clear and distinct goals. Same for 50, 60, 70, and 80. And they're not like 1% of them are money. For me, money has always just been a tool by which to do business. It's a key performance indicator of how well I do in business. Other than that, I'm from Kithra. Like, we live a very simple life. I don't like cars. I don't like fancy shit. I have a very simple level of happiness. So for me, I don't want fancy stuff. For me, it's about doing phenomenal and very good business, and then the type of legacy you can lead and help in helping others. So, and also I want to see cool historical sites. Besides that, my goals are very simple, but I write them every day. I'm sure my diary is here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. I write my goals every day in a diary since I was like 13. Like, I put the dates, and then I write how's health, how's business, what are the goals for the day. On a Sunday, I put down my goals for the week. At the end of the year, I make myself a little end of year review video, and I set my goals for next year. My policy is a stoic policy. My operating system is a stoic operating system. I just want to do better than last year, but of course I set goals. I have a very distinct goal setting method, but look, like, I think if you just do better than yesterday, you'll probably be fine. And if you don't, okay, write it down, put a plan together, and you see what you can do tomorrow. And that's very simple, almost dumb how simple the method is. Has worked well for me. And even, I mean, look, the year hasn't even ended for me. The campaigning season is over. And I'm going to New York next week, and it might be the biggest deal of my life, to be honest. It should be pretty interesting and fun. So the adventure continues for me.
This is great. Thank you, George.
Thank you.
I want to ask a question too. I mean, in your case, I can see that necessity or adversity is the mother of creation. But okay, one small question concerns the technicalities of selling when you were technicalities of selling something you created. How did you deal with that? That's number one. I mean, this is a question useful for someone who starts something, such as the young people in the audience. And second is all these ups and downs. Perhaps do they link to that to the specific business, the e-commerce that you're dealing with? So that's my 2 pence.
Sure. So definitely, in terms of the technicalities of my business, so especially for it's like the business I do is like 12 years old. So it's actually old in the experience that I have. So most of the businesses I sell are Shopify businesses. So a bit.
But when you started, how did you deal with it when you started? When you were
sure.
Yeah.
The technicalities of it. So, and look, I've helped people start businesses in Greece too, and it's the same process. So, if you want to start an online business, you have to start making money first. Don't worry about spending €5,000 on a bloody corporation. Corporations are for businesses that make money. If you haven't even validated your idea, don't go wasting $5,000. For me, I am not a huge fan of startups as a first business. Go and do a business. A business makes money within like 30 days, right? Especially if you're young. Now, if you want to start a business, you want to start selling stuff, open a Shopify business that's like $5 a month. Create your products. Go find products on AliExpress. Now I have all this done. I have a video on exactly how to do this on my YouTube channel. But like, you find the product, you put it on your website, spend a day or two making the website, then start running Facebook ads. How do you run Facebook ads? Go Google it. Put a video, how to run Facebook ads 2023, 2024, whatever, right? Like, all the answers are on the internet. When you start making money, then set up a company, then get a trademark, then do all this stuff. go make money first. Like if you don't make money, you're running a charity, you're doing nothing, you're playing games, and that's fine. You're supposed to do a bunch of silly stuff like that at the start, but like, just start getting momentum. Now, if you want to start a blog, right? If you want to start a YouTube channel, just turn on the camera, just start writing, just start. Now, for me, I'm a salesperson, whether I'm selling notes or whether I'm selling bloody holidays, whether I'm selling businesses, I'm a salesperson. For me, it was always very simple. Pick up the phone. I can find the right people to call, just pick up the phone, and then I'm good. And just start calling people. For me, it was always the same thing. Just pick up the phone and start dialing. Pick up the phone and start dialing. It was always the same thing. So just pick up the phone, start writing, pick up a pen to start writing, pick up a camera, start recording, and just start building momentum. Entrepreneurship is like Sisyphus and the rolling the stone up the hill. You got to build momentum, and slowly, it goes up, and then eventually you start getting good at it. And it starts rolling uphill. Bad analogy, but it's true. That's really how it goes, to be honest. So the technicalities of it, it's really not technical. An online business is laughably easy, right? So, and it's all online. How do you start a Shopify business? I have a video on that. A billion other people have a video on that. It's super clear, probably 20 videos in Greek how to do that. So like all the answers are on the internet. I think one of the second biggest thing I'm going to say on this talk is be curious. Like, I'm so curious, it's annoying. If I go anywhere, and this is also a bit of a Greek thing, I went to an outdoor cinema in Bagrati last week, and I'm looking around, I'm like, I wonder how much money they're making here. There's 40 seats. What are the costs? Popcorn, lighting, electricity. I'm doing the maths in my head. I'm curious, right? And ask the owner. I'm like, hey man, this is your business? He goes, yeah, I had it for 20 years. He was telling me about it. That's super interesting. Then you start forming ideas. You start mapping out how things are actually done. Like, I'm so curious that like, I will look at the Forbes list of top Greek people, richest people in Greece and Cyprus, and then I go and call all of them, and half of them will call me back. And now I'm going to meet one or two in New York. I met one in Monaco. Like, go ask questions, be curious. No one's going to be like, oh, you know what? Your questions are too good, I don't want to answer them. Go ask questions, man. Ask them to anyone. Like, that's a massive thing. And I think the technicality of it is actually the easy part. Having the motivation, of course, is the hard part. But when you realize no one's coming to save you, no one's going to hand you a business. By the time your parents going to give you inheritance, you're going to be 70 or 60 or 50. You can't wait around for other people to give you stuff. Not your parents, not the government, not the fairy godmother. No one will. That is where I get my urgency. Nothing good is ever going to happen unless I make it happen. And I think in Greece, we think someone is going to make something better for our lives, but unless you go and start that, it won't. And it'll probably get worse. Like, for me, there's always a crisis about to come. I think our things are going well. I have my little apartment here. Okay, I get to travel. Cool. But what if a pandemic comes? How would I do then? Will my business go to zero? How will I survive? What if I get sick? What if I get into a car accident? What if my mom gets into a car accident? I've got to spend money here, put money there. Like, I'm prepared years ahead for any crisis that might happen. So even if you feel things are good, if you put it into real context and you're really honest with yourself, there's massive urgency. So the urgency to be curious, to try things, to research things, to watch videos should be immediate, I think. So that's my long answer to should have been a shorter answer to your question.
It was a great answer. And I think it's a great way to finish the seminar. And it's a great thing that we had you today with us. And we have a recording, so many more students and staff will be able to watch this video. I think it's super important that they do, honestly. So thank you very much again for being with us, George. And thank you, everybody. Students didn't ask questions. I think they're a bit they are shy, but they do listen. Fine. They do listen.
Like I said, if anyone ever wants to ask me questions, go to this is my Instagram, message me. I will personally respond in Greek or English, whatever you need.
This is very kind, and thank you very much. So,
my pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.